President Trump declaring a public safety emergency, saying he's activated 800 National Guard members in the nation's capital and has now placed the D.C. Police Department under federal control, saying that Attorney General Pam Bondi will, quote, take command. This takeover is happening as the president says that crime in the city is out of control, despite officials saying that certain crimes in the city have hit a 30-year low. Watch this.
I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. If necessary, we're going to move service members directly to joining the Guardsmen, and that'll take place very rapidly.
CNN's Brian Todd is closely following this story for us. So, Brian, take us through President Trump's order and what else he's threatening, because he says he might activate the military.
That's right, Boris. He says he's kind of reserving the option to activate additional military units in Washington, D.C. if need be. He then later said he didn't think he would need them, but he's going to keep that option open. He is also considering at least expanding the National Guard deployment to other cities. He named Chicago and New York City. But let's see how this plays out in Washington, D.C. first. We do have some sourced reporting from three sources familiar with the matter saying that both the D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser and the D.C. Metropolitan Police Chief Pamela Smith did not know of President Trump's announcement prior to when he made the announcement. They were caught kind of unaware of this prior to when he made the announcement this morning. As you see the graphic there, the president plans to mobilize some 800 National Guard members on the city streets here in D.C. to put the D.C. police under federal control. That is unprecedented, by the way. A president of the United States has never taken control of the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department before. Also, FBI agents are going to be patrolling with the police department here. That is also a very rare occurrence, according to our sources. It's very rare for FBI agents to patrol with police with local police in any given city. Already some pushback here in the district from this, but let's first hear from President Trump. I'll get to the pushback in a moment, but here's what President Trump had to say about what he hopes the police could do in the city.
See, they fight back until you knock the hell out of them, because it's the only language they understand. You can see they want to get at it. And they're standing there and people are spitting in their face and they're not allowed to do anything. But now they are allowed to do whatever the hell they want.
So the president promising a very tough crackdown on crime here in D.C. And again, we mentioned some pushback to this. The D.C. Attorney General, Brian Schwab, has issued this statement, quote, "The administration's actions are unprecedented, unnecessary, and unlawful. There is no crime emergency in the District of Columbia. Violent crime in D.C. reached historic 30-year lows last year and is down another 26% so far this year. We are considering all of our options and will do what's necessary to protect the rights and safety of district residents." Attorney General Schwab is correct there when he says that crime is down in D.C. According to the D.C. Metropolitan Police, violent crime is down 26%, assaults with a dangerous weapon down 20%, robberies down 29%, and crime overall is at historic lows in this city, Boris. We also got some pushback from Council Member Charles Allen of the D.C. City Council saying this is doing this under the guise of public safety is, quote, wrong. It's an extreme, outrageous, and dangerous move for the city. That is the first member of the D.C. City Council to push back in earnest to this move. Boris?
Brian Todd, thank you so much for the reporting. Danny?
Boris, thank you. Former FBI Deputy Director and CNN Senior Law Enforcement Analyst Andrew McCabe joins us now. We also have former U.S. Attorney and former Deputy Assistant Attorney General Harry Litman. Thank you, gentlemen, for breaking down this very important story. Andrew, I want to start with you. From your perspective, is the purpose of this action purely to have just a massive show of force on the streets of D.C., or in practice, is there anything that will be done differently with the police department under federal control?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say exactly what the purpose is, right? So we know what the ostensible purpose is, the facts that, or the, I don't want to even call them facts, the information that the president cited during his press conference which of course included comparing DC to places like Baghdad and Bogota, Colombia, where we have no accurate reporting about what their crime statistics are. The fact is that the crime situation in DC is at all-time lows. They were at a 30-year low last year, and it's down an additional 26% this year. So there is no crime emergency per se in the city. So when you understand that, to try to divine what the purpose is of this deployment of National Guard assets, what this reallocation of things like FBI agent resources to patrol the streets of DC, it raises some important questions. Like, what is it? Why this production? Why this kind of Potemkin village of criminal intervention in a city? What is this designed to distract us from? I don't know that I can answer that for you here, but in effect, taking a federal official and simply calling him the head of the Metropolitan Police Department changes nothing within the Metropolitan Police Department. Those sworn officers are the only people who are legally authorized to enforce the law outside of the federal properties in DC. Most of DC is not federal property. It is the property of the District of Columbia. And I should also say, to deprive the people, the citizens of the District of Columbia, of the representatives who they elected. They elect a mayor, they elect a city council, they are entitled to hold those folks responsible for the crime situation and every other situation in DC. To completely replace that sort of authority with some specious federal authority is really concerning, I think, as a democratic matter, a democracy issue writ large.
Harry, I want to bring you into the conversation. Aside from what this may look like on the ground today or tomorrow in D.C., it seems like the thing that actually also caught a lot of people's attention, and Brian Todd just mentioned it, was this warning that President Trump basically said that this sort of action might come to other cities across the country. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it's really an important point, because it's true that he has somewhat greater authority, a fair bit greater authority in D.C. itself, though everything I think that Andy says is accurate. That goes away when he's talking about Chicago, when he's talking about Los Angeles. And by the way, he mentioned only, of course, Democratic cities. The two highest cities in murder rates are both Republicans. They didn't come out. But there, a whole survey of different laws come into effect, including the really important law. It's a mouthful, Posse Comitatus Act, that says you can't do this on the streets. You can't bring in the military. So to the extent he's trying to align it with some grand showing of what he's going to do in Democratic cities, he's going to be up against much higher legal barriers.
You know, Andrew, we heard pushback, as Brian Todd reported, just after the announcement came, but there wasn't as much pushback from, say, the D.C. mayor leading up to this. I'm curious if there's anything in particular about this, again, going into practice that worries you, especially if we might potentially see American citizens in any sort of confrontation with, say, FBI agents or National Guard members.
Yeah, there's a lot that worries me about this. You know, first of all, it's hard to explain the lack of pushback by DC authorities right now. I suspect they're probably trying to get their heads around this entire thing, because it's absolutely so bizarre. Apparently, they had no notice of it. There is also the matter of congressional funding, which basically took away $1 billion from DC this year. So the Senate is trying to restore that. The House is not willing. So there's a very kind of compelling financial / political issue that they're trying to navigate at the same time, which might be having an impact on how vocally they want to push back. Nevertheless, you are now looking at things like having hundreds of FBI agents, quote unquote, patrol the streets of DC. This is not something that FBI agents do. They're not trained for it. They don't plan on that. They don't have that sort of legal authority intrinsically. To understand exactly how FBI agents are going to start making arrests around DC, again, on areas that are not federal property, that is not something that has been worked out in any way. And now let's think about the opportunity cost. All of those counterterrorism cases, counterintelligence cases, criminal cases, crimes against children, all the things that we rely on FBI agents to protect us from every day. That work is not getting done because you've taken that resource, some percentage of it, and shifted it to patrolling DC, which is something that the FBI does not do and really cannot do in its current state competently or safely for themselves or for the citizens of the district. So really questionable decisions here that will have major impacts on the safety and security of this country.
Harry, just really quickly, I want to get your perspective on this because President Trump also said that he will bring in the military if needed, essentially beyond the National Guard. Just a quick thought, how much authority does he have to use the military in this sort of way?
Some authority to use it temporarily with congressional notification. So DC is a lot weaker here, but Congress comes to the fore. They're the ones that passed the DC Home Control Act. 48 hours, then has to notify, 30 days, then Congress has to pass. So basically, he's taking a very limited grant of authority and making a big political case with it, exactly as Andrew